I feel like it's 100 degrees.
And it is 100 degrees. Welcome to the Favorite Cheese Podcast.
The Favorite Cheese Podcast.
It's actually not it's just Favorite Cheese Podcast.
Welcome to the Facebook.
Welcome to the Facebook. You got to get rid of that.
Welcome.
No, it's welcome to Favorite Cheese. Right?
Yeah, Favorite Cheese.
Look, I just want to preface by saying I feel like this is going to be a tiny bit of an unhinged one.
Yeah.
Because I am very pale as a human being.
Yes.
And when faced with heat, I don't do so well. I feel like in a sweat lodge, I wouldn't even need peyote.
Well, you know,
I'd hallucinate just from the heat, you know? Like,
I'm seeing flames.
I'm seeing a lot of things, my guy. I do not do well in 3-digit weather.
That's because you're like 100% Irish.
Yeah, I mean,
heritage.
You know, mostly like 85. There's some trickles in of other muttness there,
like
but
our people were forced to build the pyramids.
Yeah,
and so we've
you're gonna be doing okay with that. And mine are like, no.
I remember I used to lead this hike, an Airbnb experience where I would take people to the top of the Hollywood sign. Yeah. And I remember one of those days, like these two Irish guys, they had just landed in LAX that morning. So they're already jet lagged. Yeah. It was one of those like 106 degree days, which for you at home is like 49 degrees Celsius, which is impossible normally.
Insane.
And they were literally like on this hike and they like, I had to give them like liquid IVs and they were just like,
I'm dying.
Yeah.
To put a little sneaky, BTS, I currently have an ice pack on my crotch.
I got an ice pack in my, right in my hoo-ha.
No, you can't
jammed
say
in there.
hoo-ha.
Why can't you say
Because you don't have a hoo-ha.
I know it's a joke, and you don't have it in your hoo-ha.
No, I literally am sitting with an ice pack on my thighs, and that's the only way we're going to mitigate this.
Well, I was like, leave the fans on, you know? Like, we're not making money on this podcast, and Lee, because of her weird hearing thing, she really looked out for you guys with the headphones on.
Who
and
wants like a
I'm already a wah.
I know. You are already a wah.
I'm wearing my nice tropical shirt because it's very tropical outside, and I'm happy to be home. I don't know if I'll just hop right in if you don't mind.
You want to hop right into your camembert?
I think I should hop right into my camembert. I think it's just melted cheese. It's just it's a mixture of all the things. So
absolutely.
I was out of town and I was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Didn't really know much about Tennessee, but I've been working pretty hard out here in the Los Angeles area, and I was kind of getting to that edge of being burnt out.
Yeah, you were like, I need to go somewhere or see something new or whatever.
I just needed to a change for a second.
Yeah.
And my Swedish cousin, he, for whatever reason, was coming into Memphis, Tennessee to do a show. He was opening for a comedian named Doug Stanhope, and he was like, if you want to hang out, I'll be there, and it's a free hotel. And I was like pushing. I was literally like, didn't book a ticket until the day before.
Yeah, you were very much like, I don't know. You were on the fence about it.
I was like, I don't know. The tickets are expensive. I know we have points.
It's also like shockingly hard to get to Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah,
which I believe now.
Well, sadly, like after going there, it's like, and no offense if you're from there, but it's like tickets are more expensive because no one wants to go there. So no, it's true. There's not a lot of people going there. Yeah. So the tickets are more expensive. You have to fly into Denver, meet with the Illuminati, then fly wherever you need to go to get to there, or you'd need to fly into Chicago or New York. Like there's no real direct flights from LA to Memphis except it's on like one of those weird airlines like Spirit, you know, and you're like, I don't know. I'm not bringing my own parachute. So
they're like, sorry, so you're going to have to check that parachute.
Yeah.
It's $85.
Yeah. You're like, what?
God damn it, Spirit.
So you were like the one who was like, just go, just like YOLO.
Get out. You know, also like your cousin was going to be there. It would have been no matter what, like if you're with I feel like when you're even in the weirdest experiences, if you're with someone that you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah, and
you get along with them. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, and so I was really looking forward to it. I've never been to that part of the South, but I mean, I've been to like Haythorne, Texas. I've been to Dallas. I've been to other places, but like not. But you know, I was just driving through.
Would you say this was your first experience with the South?
I'd say it's my first experience with like, I don't know if it's the deep South, but like the South, and just like Memphis is not the city it once was. Let's just say like, and I had quite an interesting experience, and that's what we'll hop into here.
I want to say that it was a very funny journey because Delman had never been to the South. I've been to the South a lot, and I have family in North Carolina and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I wonder if I should like warn him and let him know that he's like fully like, you're not in Kansas anymore kind of a situation.
Well, I mean, technically I was in Kansas pretty much.
But you know what I mean? Like I was like, I don't know if I should warn him.
You're not in WeHo anymore.
You're not in West Hollywood anymore. But you got there the first day and you texted me and you were like, talk to a really nice man at the hotel and I think, America might be okay. And then you texted me on day 3 and you were like, I need to get out.
Yeah. So let me explain for those people listening going, I don't know what's happening currently. Basically, if you're from the United States, you know what we're talking about. If you're not from here, it's a big country, the United States, and we have a lot of different histories
and viewpoints.
You know, for the most part, we're like rah rah rah, bald eagles, America.
Sure.
But then when you really kind of zoom in, there's a lot of different things. So I remember when I would first go to Europe, and it was like back when George Bush was president, George W.
The W.
And people would be like, oh, you're an American? And I'd always be like, well, I'm a Californian, because that would always work, like especially, you know, with worldly whatever, and because everyone seems to like California in the rest of the world. It's just the United States on that part of the people that make fun of us. But California is very, very awesome, very open-minded, very liberal for the most part. It's, you know, has a lot to see, a lot to do.
Forefront of science, forefront of a lot of things.
Yeah, big economy. We got mountains, we got deserts. We got beaches, we got cliffs, we got everything you could imagine. So I
have California pride for sure.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in California, so I always felt comfortable being like, well, I can talk about California because I've been to every single part, from Fresno to San Diego to Redding. You know, I've been all over.
Yeah.
So I can talk about California, but I haven't been to all the states. You know, I don't know.
This is true.
Yeah, so when I was in Europe, I was always like, California, and they're like, Hollywood, and I'm like, sure.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, that's
and
me.
not West Hollywood, but yeah.
I go by Hollywood Delman. Thank you.
Yeah. So we landed in Memphis, and my cousin wasn't getting in for a while, and he booked this really fancy hotel in Memphis.
Sure.
And it's like the fanciest hotel in Memphis. It's called the Peabody Hotel.
Oh, the Peabody.
The Peabody. And it basically just feels like you're in the Titanic. like it's very ornate and over the top, but it's very old, and like you're kind of like, is this
like
gonna
even
sink?
in thought processes, you're like, oh, did we go back in time to the Titanic?
Yeah. Like, there's like people playing the piano, and you're just like it looks nice, but when you really look at the details, you're like, this is this is gonna fall apart in 1 minute.
Yeah, watch that crown molding.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I just put my hand in the wall and it like sagged in like a Tempur-Pedic mattress. Like maybe there's a leak. I don't know.
They're like, it's historical.
Yeah. So I first get there. I get there earlier than my cousin because his plane is like super delayed. And so I'm just sitting at the bar, as one would do, and I start talking to a nice man from Oklahoma.
Good for you.
And he was like one of those old like foghorn leghorn types. If you don't know what that is, it's like a southern chicken that is based. And he's like, where you from now, partner? Like literally. And I'm like, California.
And Dylan's like in his Aloha shirt being like, California, my guy.
And I thought wearing like tropical shirts, like Hawaiian/Aloha shirts, would be something they'd be into, but no, I stuck out like a sore thumb.
You're
so
that guy.
I'm getting like, howdy, partner. What part of the country are you from? I'm like, California, and they're like, yeah. Well, Well, it's a hotel, so it's like, in the beginning, like, even though this guy was Oklahoma, he was one of those, like, rich oil baron types.
Ah, yes. We love our oil baron
So
types.
we were just talking about stuff. He said...
Barton.
Yeah. I think that was maybe his name,
Sure.
Barton.
Not no.
He said woke way too many times.
Oh, they always
and I'm
do.
like, that's not even something, anyways. And he was talking about stuff, but I will say, we agreed on a lot of stuff. We met in the middle. It was a very nice conversation.
Doesn't all have to be conjecture and fighting. I
yeah,
get
it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it was like a really nice, like reaching across the aisles, giving some cheers, talking about
Sure.
America. And,
Yeah.
and then at the end, he bought me all my drinks. So
Wow,
if he doesn't like
Barton.
socialism, then I don't know what he's doing.
Hey, my guy, just an FYI.
He's like, I'll pay for you because I like you.
Needs
No.
in the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was nice talking to him, and he was a very open-minded, nice guy. But then, like,
Sure.
I realized,
Civil
like, we're in a
conversation-ish.
hotel, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the next morning, my cousin finally gets there. The next morning, I wake up, and the big part about the Peabody Hotel, besides it like looking like the Titanic,
Sure.
and besides the fact
Smelling like the Titanic.
smelling like a water ride, yes, like the Titanic, they like to tell you that Elvis had his high school prom there.
Thank God. I wondered where he had his high school prom.
That's my first thought when
That
I
was
when
one
I
of my
think of a
first
celebrity.
thought-
I'm
yeah.
like, I wonder where they had their
Hey,
prom.
does anyone know where George Clooney had his high school prom? I'd like to go there.
Yeah, one day when you're in Pomona, California, and you go to the Copacabana, they'll be like, Andrew Delman had his prom here,
like-
and this is where his heart was ripped. That's where he was crying.
Oh no. Yeah, well,
Anyway, so Elvis, he had his prom there. He signed his RCA contract over there.
Sure.
And then the Peabody Hotel, the weird thing about it is basically like 80 years ago, these guys got drunk on Jack Daniels and they released a bunch of ducks into the hotel lobby. And the ducks
Where
were
did
like,
they get the ducks?
they don't cover that part in the weird
That feels like
voiceover.
the first thing to be covered. They had ducks.
Well,
because...
I don't know. The ducks were outside. They moved them in. They let them go. And then the ducks, being ducks, just kind of like, oh, there's a big marble fountain in here. Maybe we'll just swim in the fountain.
Sure.
So they stayed in the fountain. People kind of liked it. The hotel manager guy was like, hey, can you get these ducks out of here? But one of the bellboys, for some reason, I guess he like used to be a trainer at the Barnum and Bailey's.
Yeah, it was back in circus times.
Yeah.
Everyone was into circus,
And
man.
so this was his shot, and he was like, Mr. Peabody. He's like, I think I can train these here ducks, and every day I can bring them into the fountain. And then the Peabody guy's like, yeah, whatever, man. Like,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this guy trained these ducks, and for 50 years, I'm not exaggerating, for 50 years, the same guy every single day
Wow.
marched these 5 ducks from the roof down to the fountain, and then it just became this thing, and he became the
And
duck.
so, like, that's the gimmick.
That's
is
the
that,
gimmick.
Like, yeah.
It's just Duck Central. So they made him the Duck Master. He has a special suit and a duck like cane that he swings around, and they place him like John Philip Sousa, like dun 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 dun. Yeah. And then he gives his whole
so
speech
good.
about Elvis and then about the Peabody
Yeah.
and everything else, and then he
Good.
brings the ducks down, and kids and weird people and all sorts of people, they get a kick out of this. And that was my first thing into being going, I don't think a lot's going on here.
Yeah,
in
what's going on in Memphis
If
that they're
this
like, we
is-
gotta have the ducks?
Well, not just that. They've done it every day for 80 years now. And the freaking lobby fills up with people. Like, this is the attraction. in
Really? Like
Memphis.
hundreds, would you say?
At least 50.
Okay. All
So
right.
a lot,
Yeah. So
you know.
a lot comparative.
They roll out a red carpet and these
Sure.
ducks come in. So
Sure.
the first guy who was the duck master, he was odd, and he wasn't kind
It's
with
so weird that the duck master was a weird guy.
yeah. Hey, I'm one step away from duck
Yeah,
master.
you are one
but
step away.
Still.
He wanted to be a falconer. He settled for duck master.
No, but that's a different relationship, because I'm like very curious about these ducks, right? And
yeah,
I'm like,
that tracks.
so I go up and I'm like, hey, Duck Master John.
Yeah.
Why aren't these ducks like flying around the?
You've been around ducks. You know ducks fly.
They fly.
They flap and they fly, baby.
And I was like, why aren't they flying? And he and I'm like, you trained them, but still, like, I know ducks. And he leans in and he goes, we clip their wings.
Good God.
And I'm like, Jesus.
That's a nightmare.
And he's like, and he like gives me a wink, and I'm like, what is that?
Cool.
Like,
no.
just between you and me. You know,
and now
yeah.
the entire world.
And then exactly. And then I go up to the fountain and I smell it, and it just smells like chlorine. And I'm like, these ducks aren't free. They're held against their will.
No.
And every person
Free
I told
the Peabody Ducks.
Yeah. And it's just so funny because, like, I guess maybe I'm just weird, but I'm the only one thinking about this stuff. Because then I told everyone, and they're like, I never thought about it.
Yeah, duh. Of course their wings have to be clipped. Yeah. They're like, they're just like, wah, 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 to the chlorine fountain again, everyone.
Yeah. So that part was already strange. And my Swedish cousin is there. And I don't know if you know about Sweden, but, like, it's an awesome country. There's not a lot of gimmicks or kitsch they have
niche
here.
Things. There's not a lot of like, hey, here's why you're here.
It's
like,
mainly just
beautiful.
like things you need, how to make your life easier, organization,
historical stuff,
yeah,
learning, education.
Yeah. And I mean, they have their own issues, whatever. But it was just very funny because, like, he's like, "What is happening?" like he's just like, okay.
"Why the ducks?"
Yeah, and in true American fashion, they like leaned in, so it wasn't just like, "Oh, it's the Peabody and some ducks." It was like, now the Peabody is ducks.
Oh yeah, you were texting me pictures of duck soap, duck sugar cubes, duck cups.
Yeah, like everything is duck. Like they got, it's like their mascot now. Yeah. It's just absolutely.
They're ducking crazy, baby.
Duck. Yeah. But you're not allowed to pet the ducks. But which was pretty sad.
Well, yeah, because then everyone's gonna pet the ducks. They're already living in hell.
I know.
They already have clipped wings and have to swim in a chlorine pool.
Yeah. Well, after the duck master was like, "Don't you worry, everyone. Up on the roof of the Grand Peabody Hotel, the ducks have a $200,000 duck palace that has their own natural habitat." So I was like,
believe it.
I was like, I got to see this palace. I got to get to the bottom of it. I get to the top.
Sure.
Check out the duck palace. It is just a cage with a smaller fountain in it, a bunch of AstroTurf, and duck poop everywhere. No. And I'm like, guys, natural. There's nothing natural. First off, ducks don't live on
natural AstroTurf habitat
on the top of a roof.
Oh man.
Anyways, it was awkward.
Look, we can start a Free the Peabody Ducks.
I think so. I think
Free Peabody Ducks.
I think just releasing them onto a golf course might be the best thing they would ever.
Yeah, except for they can't fly away from any natural predators that now live on the golf course.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I guess you're right. But
they have to go to a duck reserve where they're living a happy life.
Yeah.
That's what I've decided, and not in 102-degree heat.
Yeah. So that was the other thing. So we're used to heat here in California, but it's like a dry heat. So even though it's very hot out, you can deal with it. In Memphis, it's just as hot, but then it's a wet heat. So it feels like you're in a sauna 24/7.
Yeah, it's like a humidity.
Yeah, it's 93% humidity when I was there.
Good God.
So I not only am like feeling like I'm dying, but when I suffer from anxiety, I get this like weight on my chest.
Yeah.
And that's like what kind of signals my body like, hey, we're anxious right now.
Yeah, or we're like, hey, we're a borderline panic attack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's so hot, and I'm just like have that weight because like I don't know what it is, but like the pressure and the humidity just adds that there.
Yeah.
So I'm literally it's
hard to breathe.
It's hard to breathe. I'm having panic attacks a lot. And as you were saying about the South, and I'm going to preface this because I've been having a hard time like kind of talking about this.
And coping with it,
yeah. Yeah, and coping with it. But, like, if you're from the South, I don't have any issue with you, and I don't want to hurt your feelings or anything. I'm just going to say how it felt not being from the South.
Being a transplant,
and seeing it for the first time. But where we were in Memphis, Tennessee, it felt very racist and very segregated.
Yeah.
And it was shocking. Like I had a culture shock for me, and maybe this is one of the big differences we're experiencing as a country, but I feel like in California especially, we like
are a melting pot.
Well, there are a lot of transplants are from all over. We never used the Confederate flag, and we never we weren't Southerners. A lot of people that moved to California, they moved from all over the country, so you do get a mixed pot, and from all over the world. So it's like I have British friends, I have Japanese friends, I have Chinese friends, I have Swedish friends. I have friends from all over that live in California.
Yeah.
So you get a
It's a
worldly
very
view.
diverse pool.
And we have a lot of people from the South. I mean, your mom is from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends from Texas all over. So I feel like it's a balanced ecosystem of beliefs, and there's not as much that feeling of like racism, you know? And it wasn't just the Peabody because we went all over.
Yeah.
But it kind of seemed like all the white old people were really rude, entitled, and mean.
Yes.
And then all of the black people were super, super nice and super friendly. But it almost felt like
obligatory.
Yeah, like they had to be, you know? And it was
heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking.
Crushing. Yeah.
It really felt very strange, especially when like people are coming into the hotel and there's like Confederate flags on their suitcases, and that's such a big thing that you'd have
it's
to
disgusting.
Imagine,
it makes
like,
me sick to my stomach.
I mean, Germany did the opposite where like you can't even fly any flags.
Yes.
But imagine if you were like a Jewish person where the Holocaust was, and you show up and people just had swastikas, and they're like, anyways, right this way. And you're like, it would just be horrifying, and it would be scary. And so just putting myself in and I just felt so different. And when you were inside, all the white people that we would go up to, I'd be like, how do you like Memphis? And they're like, another day in paradise.
Best city on earth. And you're like,
and then when you'd go to a black person and you'd say, how's Memphis? They'd be like, Memphis is Memphis. And you're like, what does that mean? And some of them are like, you know, I love my city, but like, I feel like I'm trapped here, you know, like, and especially when I would tell them that I was from California and that, you know, yada, 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 they would open up to me more.
It's not something that I know it because I grew, again, I went to different things, and I remember when I was younger, coming from, again, very like liberal California, very like everyone is like, I don't know, treated differently. And it's not to say that California doesn't have its problems. We're not perfect by any means, obviously. But I'm just saying, I remember it's a difference of a cultural, absolute cultural difference. Yeah. And also to see it for the first time where it's literally on the tips of people's tongues. Yeah. I've never experienced anything like that. And I remember being like physically ill. Yeah. I remember being like, oh, this is sickening. No, that's how I felt.
So not only with like the anxiety of the humidity, and I was texting your mom and I'm like, how do I survive? And she was like air conditioning, swimming pool. She's like, or else it just feels like you're breathing syrup. And I'm like, that's exactly how it feels. I'm breathing syrup. Exactly how it
feels, yeah.
So, and also the difference is we have a lot of homeless people in LA and in Southern California, and it's a big problem, but it's equal opportunity homeless. I mean, when you're out here, it's homeless people of all different races, creeds, ethnicities, genders. When you're there, it's pretty black and white, literally. And it's
heartbreaking even more.
And so it was just like, and that was only on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because like, I guess for whatever reason, Memphis itself looks like it's kind of falling apart. Like it doesn't look like the rest of the country that I'm used to. And it was quite scary. But so most of the businesses are not even open except on the weekends.
Sure.
Normal just coffee shops, normal restaurants, they're just closed.
I'm sure they got hit really hard by COVID.
They did.
Too.
That's what they were saying.
Yeah.
But there's all these homeless people during the week, but on the weekend they literally like ship them out so that it looks clean when people show up. And so I'm already just like, this is too much, right? And my Swedish cousin is like, what is happening? Because he's like, I have been to Egypt. I have been to Jordan. He's like, this is close to as scary, which is like horrifying to hear, because it's like, as an American, someone from the United States, I pride myself and I want to show my family the best parts of this country. And he's been to New York and he's been to Los Angeles, California. And so he has that part, but both of us, it was our first time. So when he's like looking at me and he's like, is this how it is? I'm like, I think this is how it is. Yeah. And even when I've talked to other Southern people, they're like, that's real America. And I guess we're only as great as our worst part. So I guess that is America.
Yeah.
But it was just absolutely
eye-opening
and sad. And like, I texted my other friend who's from Nashville, because I guess Nashville's thriving, like, but Nashville was like 4 hours away.
Yeah.
And so I texted him and I was like, well, why is Memphis? He's like, Memphis is basically like the Flint, Michigan of the South. And
Sure.
it felt like that. It felt like there were huge buildings that looked like they had their heyday one time that were just empty. There was windows empty, like it was just like a ghost town. It felt like a ghost town. And then every time I would ask him, I'm like, because one of my favorite things to do when I go to a city is get lost. And everyone was like, do not get lost. Do not walk around. It's so dangerous. And if you Google it, it's one of the most dangerous cities in America right now.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm not that scared. I'm 6'2". I got this. But you can't walk around because it's too hot. But anyway, so they're like, don't walk around. And also, I'm asking, and I want to feel like what would I do if I lived here? So I'm asking the concierge, who's this I don't even know how to explain him, but basically he
looks like a concierge of a fancy hotel in Memphis.
Exactly, but
exactly
he's like this heavy set white guy with blonde hair that's like hooched back.
Yeah.
And he looks like Donald Trump Jr. if Donald Trump Jr. had.
Sure. He looks like Barron Trump.
Barron, if he grew up.
Yeah. You were describing him, and I was like, that's just like a baby.
And he
Barron
was a
Trump.
nice guy, but like kind of an idiot, but he was nice. But I was like, hey, like
he was just an aw shucks, which is very Southern and familiar, where they're just like, well, I don't know, and you're like, cool, what do you know?
Yeah, and that was like the thing, because I feel like in California we're honest to the fault. Like, even though like this place is great, like if you come here and you're like, what should we do? Everyone's like, this place sucks, leave, or whatever. But
no,
we'll give you advice, but we won't pretend that it's
we
like palace.
Are pretty pragmatic about
things.
things.
Don't go there, do go here. Well, he was just like, I love the Peabody. It's my favorite hotel in the world. And I'm like,
Dylan?
skip
Dylan?
this track. Like it really felt like he was just reciting. Well, I just love Memphis. And I'm like, sir.
Yeah.
So I asked him, I go, what to do? Well, Graceland, obviously. Got to go to Graceland. And I'm like, okay. And that's Elvis's house, by the way. And then he's like, or you could go here. This is where Elvis went. Or here, Elvis also went here. Or you could go.
I don't care about
and
Elvis.
I was like,
I don't care enough about Elvis to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah. So
the only place I'm going for anyone that I love is Dolly Parton land.
Yeah, exactly. And so I literally am like, okay, like, hey, let's just say we don't care about Elvis. And he was like, like he almost died. He's like, but that's all we have.
The ducks stop. Everyone stops.
Yeah. The piano stops playing.
What?
Yeah. And that was like already. And he's like, well, I guess you could go to this diner where Elvis went to get. I'm like, all right, fine. We'll go to the diner. He's like, it's the oldest diner. And I was like, did anything else happen here of any significant? And I know there's something, but anything? And he's like, Elvis. I'm like, all right, dude.
Got it. Bye.
So we walk to this diner and we're on our way and we're walking through some seedy parts of the town, but it's nice to actually see what's going on.
To be fair, you didn't know much going into
I didn't know
Memphis
anything. I'm going to see my cousin. Like that was it. And everything else on top of it was a bonus.
Bread on some butter?
Yeah. So we get to this diner, and it was cool. The booths and the whole thing.
Yeah, man.
Ordered some grits and some eggs.
Butter, grits.
Some biscuits.
Hell yeah, biscuits and gravy. Hell
which
yeah.
my cousin kept calling muffins, and I kept having to be like, these are
not
muffins. He's like, but it
muffins.
looks like an English muffin. I'm like, not an American one.
These are biscuits.
Biscuit.
And you are absolutely challenged on whether or not you're a real American if you can make your biscuits.
Yeah, but as we're on the way to this place, we pass by this hotel, and it says, I have a dream, MLK, and the letters are kind of like falling off. And I knew this was the South, and so I'm kind of like, hey, can we check this out? We walk over to it, and it's this hotel that's kind of like kept as it was.
Time capsuled.
And it has these cars, and then there's this big plaque, and it says, here is where Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness. And you look, and there it is. And there's a big flower wreath to remember him.
Yeah.
And nobody was there except for my cousin and me and a woman and her 2 children. And they happened to be African American. And we were all having like an emotional time. But for me, it was shocking because I asked, the concierge a million times what to do. And he didn't say anything about this.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course I knew in the back of my mind, but it wasn't on the forefront of my brain. And to just stumble across such a big place,
such a massive moment,
place that he didn't even suggest to go to. And obviously this museum is hurting because not enough people are going there. It's a civil rights museum.
Yeah.
And not enough people are going there because he keeps sending them to Graceland, you know, and all these, and it was just insane. So we're having like this emotional moment. And then we have
you said it kind of wrecked you.
Oh yeah, it wrecked me because it's like already I'm feeling this underlying tension.
Sure.
And then I asked this guy a million times where to go. He doesn't say anything, and we just happen to stumble across this. So then we go have our breakfast. We're both, and even Arn is like, I cannot believe he would not suggest this place. You know, he's like, isn't that a national holiday here? And I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yes,
and he's like, so why wouldn't they say something? And I'm like, I have no idea. So we're leaving the breakfast spot, and my cousin is like, this is a big deal. Like, shouldn't they have told us? And we're both kind of like offended that they wouldn't tell us about this stuff. So we get back to the hotel. We've had kind of an emotional day. And I go to the concierge guy and I'm like, dude, why didn't you tell me about this? And he's like, well, I love Memphis and I just want people to have a good time when they're here.
But that's exactly what they do. They forget. I mean, I feel like so much of at least the places that I visited, it is so like swept under the rug and it's so horrible, and it's like still the treatment is not up to par as to what it needs to be at all. And it really is like, I can't describe it any other way except for just like sickening, because you just go like, sickening. How are you sitting there like denying any of this when we went to
they're in denial. They're living in denial. Like the city is crumbling around them. It honestly, as my cousin was saying, felt like a third world country, and they're just pretending like everything's good. The ducks are good. The Elvis is good.
But still not like owning up to any of their not like owning absolute
not owning up to it and
tragedies.
Yeah. And it was just like absolutely crazy. And then the more you go down the rabbit hole, the more you realize like a lot of very important things for civil rights happened in Memphis. And a lot of other things, and there's a huge music scene, not just Elvis. Like, so that's the other thing. It's like, they have Beale Street, which is like the red light district, or Las Vegas, like lots of lights, people drinking in the streets. New Orleans, kind of like people just partying, having fun.
But it used to be like,
it used to be like a musical mecca where there'd be like Huey Lewis performing there,
B.B. King.
B.B. King, there's B.B. King Avenue, and like Ray Orbison and all these people, and they kind of talk about that, but not really. Just Elvis. And so finally, luckily, I found this museum called the Stax Museum, and it's based on the Stax Records, which was like a company that made these records. And it was beautiful because white people and black people came together to make music, and it was like in a very segregated part of the country. It was where things were not like, when you walked in that door, it didn't matter the color of your skin, you were just playing music. And a lot of people came up there. I mean, Otis Redding.
Which I feel like lead with that.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
huge.
That's humongous.
Yeah, Otis Redding. And the whole style of music, not just like Elvis and rock and roll, but like soul.
Yeah,
and
R&B and soul.
Yeah, and the place was called Soulsville. And like, so many people came up in there, and Smokey Robinson, Isaac Hayes, and it was
Wasn't
just
the Supremes too.
The Supremes, it was just like on and on and on about how like, and it was amazing
and how influential it is, and how like massive it is,
and how a lot of it came from.
How someone should definitely suggest going there instead of the booth.
And also the museum is in the exact spot where the record company was. So when you go there, you're in a very poor, rundown, specific part of the city that like we hadn't seen before, and it definitely is a different like deep woods feel, and the music they created there is amazing. I mean, it's just like, it's that soul that the church music meets like old slave music meets church music meets rock meets soul, and it was incredible. And that was one of the best experiences for me, was going to that museum and learning about all that stuff. And then again, I go back and I yell at him and I'm like, why didn't you tell me about Stack? And he's like, well, you know the ducks and blah blah blah. And
no one cares about your stupid ducks.
It was just like such a strange feeling to be there.
Do you feel like it was educational in a weird way?
I mean, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was educate. Well, I learned a lot about the country and about how the other side lives. And it was just really interesting because a lot of people you meet there too, they've never been to California.
Of course not.
And they've never been to some of the other parts of this country. And so it's really interesting when
I remember
a lot of people crap talk on this state.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't you come here? Because after
I remember
going there,
arguing with like my cousins and stuff, and when they'd be like, socialism's horrible, and I'd be like, go to Sweden, just go. Or like I remember them saying stuff
that's a
that
social democracy.
Sure, but I'm just saying, like, they would talk about things that they would talk about California, and I'd be like, you've never been there. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, that's the one difference. They're like, it is so expensive, and I go, and it is so expensive.
And it is.
But even yesterday when we were driving around the worst parts of LA, they were nowhere near as bad as the worst parts of Memphis.
Sure.
And for me, I'm like, and if that's what it costs, you know, because like after seeing it, I was shocked that I was shocked that people from there can have such a negative opinion on California or something, because it's like going there, it literally, I was like, when they say the South will rise again, after going there, I'm like, it will never rise again. Like
I don't think so.
They got so much work they have to do just to get to normal, in my opinion. I'm really sorry if you're from Memphis that I'm talking crap on it. So like, long story short, then once Thursday,
there were parts of it that you.
So once Thursday
were
rolled
grateful
around,
for. Yes, obviously
they cleaned up the streets a little, and then things started to like come alive. The businesses started to open, but my cousin and I, we got out of the downtown area and we went to like, I wanted to go where other people would go, so we'd just get in the Uber driver and be like, take us where you go.
Yeah,
take us.
Show us real Memphis.
So they took us to like took us to like Cooper Young, and then they took us to like Midtown. Yeah, and those were like hipsterier areas. And so we went to this cool bar called B-Side, and we met these people who, you know, were like our age. And after talking to the people our age, maybe it's the internet, maybe it's just our
social media, maybe it's a new generation.
But they were like what I would consider normal. Like, I would hang out with these people. We were all on the same page, you know. It was just very much like we're just trying to survive in this world and have a good time and make connections. And it did not feel like the downtown felt, or like the old style felt. It felt more, you know, like what we would do in LA, or what you would do in any hipster area. So that was like comforting to be like, okay, there are parts of this city that are not.
Well, and I think in a weird way, it's like, I remember going there when I was really young and hearing words I'd never heard in California, and being like, bawling my eyes out, being so, I mean, my brother, who's very sensitive too, he would have moments where he'd be like, how is this happening? Like, he would just be so thrown by it, and we'd have to like really come to terms with all these things that we just didn't understand were even possible. But I do really appreciate, in a weird way, like, I know how naive I am to like my privilege. I know how naive I am to like,
that's what it made me feel, is like, I just had no idea that it was going to be like that. Like, I had no idea. Like, I mean, it was just shocking.
I really do think it's one of those things where, as eye-opening and as like unsettling as it was, I think it's a very good thing to like see and learn.
No,
and,
it was
now go, okay, I've been there and I see the education, and now I can, at least from a standpoint, see how people go, hey, this is a problem, and I go, oh no, it is. I've been and I've seen it firsthand. It's a massive problem.
I don't know, like, because that's the other thing we were just talking the whole time on, like, I don't even know how you would fix it, because a lot of people don't even know it's a problem because they've never been anywhere else.
Yes, precisely.
And then even people that are experiencing the problem have no idea because they've never been anywhere else either. And it's just like a complicated, weird, walking on a thin line, you know, sort of thing in Memphis specifically. I'm not talking about the whole South or anything. I'm talking about Memphis.
You just got a dose of
Memphis.
Memphis reality.
And it's crazy because a lot of songs take place, and it had a heyday. Like, it was a big deal.
Sure.
And so it's interesting also now to see a city just trying to cling on to old rock and roll and kind of like that Southern rock, and it's just really not what it used to be. And a lot of people moved to Nashville, and you can tell they're pretty mad about that.
Yeah.
But besides it being like 2,000 degrees and 98% humid and 95% racist, it was a really nice to hang out with my cousin. We had a really nice time. We caught up. We saw a part of this country that neither of us will ever forget. And
we'll probably not go back to.
I don't have a reason to go back to Memphis. I have no problem with Tennessee. I hear Chattanooga's amazing. I hear Nashville's amazing. So it's like I don't have a problem with Tennessee. I'm glad to be home. I used to really like Elvis. He's still fine. But like Memphis is an interesting city right now in the iteration it is.
Yeah.
And I got to see the Mississippi. That was cool.
That's really cool.
And I got to go into the Bass Pro Shop headquarters, which is in a
that feels
pyramid.
Good. There's Illuminati in there. They meet there, you know.
No, they meet in the Denver airport.
The Dumilari's meet in the in the Bass Pro Shop pyramid.
The Illuminati.
Yeah, we're Illuminati.
yeah.
Not I.
Yeah.
Illuminati I.
So I'm glad to be back, and
I don't know. In a weird way, like I feel like. It's not like in any other way, but I am glad that like you got to experience that firsthand because that's something that I've gotten to experience. So when stuff came out and I remember being like, yeah, I felt that before. Yeah, I felt the discrimination that people, I've seen it happen firsthand. I've done it. And I feel like in California, again, it can blind you a bit to like be like, well, that's not how things are. And it's like, not here.
I've been literally going across the world being like, pitching the California message saying it's the whole United States, and it's just like wrong. It's like, and even in Oregon and even in other parts, like
it's prevalent.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying racism. I'm not saying that, but there are huge cultural differences based on every state.
Yes,
because if you were in Europe, basically, if we were going from California to Arizona, it would only take you a couple of hours.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of the same. We all speak English. We're all United States citizens. But it would be like going from like France to like the Netherlands. Like it's a huge gap, huge cultural difference, language difference, belief difference, you know. So that's the difference over in Europe. It's like everyone is has such a deep history and such a deep idea and belief that's completely different than their neighbors. Whereas here, we all pretend that we're and I proudly stand
sure, except for they do also. I mean, again, the family that I've had like holds on to the history of that, but what they're not trying. I mean, it's like what they're not realizing is that their history is rooted in like absolute horrendous beliefs. You know, it's like when they sit there and, like you said, that guy with the Confederate flag on his thing. When we went to Munich, the difference is like every corner we turned, there were so many statues and remembering like and moments and art structures to like the Holocaust and all of them going like, we fucked up and we're so sorry.
Oh, and you're not allowed to wear or to Heil Hitler. Or
you're not allowed to do anything.
Well, it was also funny because Wednesday in Memphis is motorcycle night.
Yeah, sure.
And so all these motorcycle drivers were driving around and they were all wearing those helmets that we just think are like motorcycle helmets.
Yeah.
But my Swedish cousin, who's also Jewish, he was like, why are they all wearing Nazi helmets?
Sure.
And I was like, oh, those are just what people wear. And then he's like, no, those are Nazi helmets.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, you wouldn't be able to wear that. And I'm like, well, technically, I don't think they're DOT approved, you know, but that would be the problem over the fact that they look like Nazi helmets.
The fact that, but you wouldn't even be able to like whisper about that in Munich. And that's the right, in my opinion, I mean, like, that's the right approach to take. The right approach to take is go like, hey, we fucked up. This was an actual tragedy. This is disgusting. We don't even stand by any whisper of it. No, some guy can just like have a Nazi helmet and carry around a Confederate flag like that. It's just I get it.
I just think maybe embrace your past and try and not pretend things are great and to
don't embrace your past.
No, don't embrace it like we're going back in time, but I mean just like
acknowledge your wrongdoings of the past.
Just don't pretend it didn't exist, you know. Anyways, so that was Memphis, and
I do want to preface and say there's no shit talking massively on the South. If you're not racist, you don't have anything to worry about.
I mean, there's horrible people everywhere. There's great people everywhere. I'm just saying
it was an eye-opening
experience for a young California boy.
Yep.
who's not even from the nicest part of California. I'm from the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
And some would say the Inland Empire is the south of California.
Of California. It is absolutely the south of California.
It's a big difference.
Yes.
So, but I'm happy to be home, and I'm happy I went, and my cousin's set went very good when he opened for Doug Stanhope.
Great.
And things went great.
Good.
So,
we love that.
Yeah. So anywho, how are you?
You know, you were gone, and so it was like, I don't know, I had the whole house to myself. I felt like very like I could have a party, I could go crazy, I could go feral. When in reality, I just watched Outlander and ate like a half a watermelon at a time.
Oh, so you're just getting horned up.
Yeah, just getting horned up eating melon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what my nights consisted of. Just, you know, went thrifting, watched Outlander, ate watermelon. Honestly, lived my bestest life. It was pretty good. That was my fondue of the week, was that I realized, like, not only did I obviously miss you a lot, but it was just a very funny thing where I realized that I'm at a very different age in my life now, where it was like all of my like wild party ideas were honestly like, I'm going to have a watermelon for dinner. And like insane things like that, where I was just funny. Like, this is so sad and truly so pathetic, where it was just like, I'm going to have a night of heavy cheese. That way I can fart up the whole bed and no one will be mad at me. Wow. And I'm like, oh no, I'm getting older. I'm getting older in the sense that my party days are like even I was talking to friends and we went to go see movies and I was like, how's 8? And we both were like, 8 is so late. Like, we both had like 5:30. Like we both had those moments where I was like, oh, I'm no longer the party animal. I don't think I ever was the party animal.
No, you never were.
But I definitely am not anymore, considering that like my wild nights include like a nice warm bath.
Well, the same with us. Like, I mean, my cousin and I, like, we would have like, the first night we had a few beers, and then the next day we were like sweating so much. Yeah. We were just like, maybe we just don't drink anymore.
We just keep up our electrolytes.
Yeah, maybe it's just water and more water and then some Gatorade.
It's so funny. It really is just like, I realized that was my fondue of the week, was realizing that like, embrace the change of when you get older, embrace the things that were like, I really had this odd pressure to like, go out and do something just be like, I'm gonna meet with friends every day. I'm gonna have like a coffee date here. Not that I can't do that now, but it's just like we love each other, and so we spend a lot of time together. And I was like, oh, this will be the like, you know, I'm gonna go hang out with this here, and then I literally was just like, actually, I'm probably just gonna stay home and eat a lot of cheese and watch a lot of soft porn. And Outlander is soft porn. Outlander is absolutely soft porn. If you haven't watched it, dive right in, because it's a fun time.
Until that one weird.
Oh yeah, no, it does get dark. I should preface by saying dark. It gets really super super dark. Yeah. But if you're into like Scottish men and like mild smooches and stuff like that, you know, yeah. I don't know. I stick to like the first like 8 episodes, and then I just go back and start over.
Yeah, until the dark stuff happens.
Till the dark stuff happens.
Yeah.
But no, it was. I realized that very quickly.
I just kept texting you like, I miss you so much.
You did.
I want to come home. And then you just weren't texting me because you were just home alone.
I was just here, and I was like turning on some like Taylor Swift and like dancing to Cruel Summer as I ate half a watermelon.
The movie Home Alone for you.
It really was. I was just going crazy. But again, in the saddest way. If anyone put up a camera and they were like, we're going to catch her in the act, it would be like, oh, there she is
dancing. She
just
slept for 4 days. She didn't even wake up.
She is sleeping again.
Yeah.
And the paint is peeling off the walls because she's ripping all the cheese toots. Yeah, it was a great time in the sense that I was absolutely the saddest 38-year-old woman that's ever. If I had like a sea of cats or like a sea of rescue, and I did, that is true. This is a real thing that I haven't even told you. But there was a little black and white puppy that I saw online, and I was like, maybe I should just go meet him. You know what I mean? Because maybe I should just go see him. I sent him to you, too, online. But I was like, oh, and then I even, like, tried to track him down, and I had that moment where I was like, oh, I'll just go here, and then I'll, like, swing by and see that puppy. And I was like, if you have a dog when Delman comes home, he won't forgive you. He'll be very upset with you.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd forgive me because you would. But I was like,
too many.
Three's too many. You're right.
Too many.
Three's
One
a crowd.
per person.
Three's a crowd.
Yeah.
I get it. But it was a very hard thing for me not to do. The positive is that he got adopted. So I literally the next day they were like, sorry, so Cinnamon got adopted, and I was like, okay, great, Cinnamon.
Yeah.
But
well, that's great.
I almost got a dog, and I ate about 4 watermelons.
Great.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you for the times.
Well, shall we, since we're melting currently,
you want to dive into the melting
why
pot?
Not? I mean,
look, I think we could probably do one. No, just kidding. We can do a couple questions. I will say, I asked today, and you guys really delivered. I got some really, really good ones.
And also, thanks for reaching out to us on the Instagram. We've been reading your messages. Sorry to some of you who are having really hard weeks, but I'm glad we could be there to help you through it.
It makes me feel so happy that we can be any semblance of light in your life.
And I also love how much you guys support us and finding our final form. So many of you are supporting my love of falcons.
Yeah, a lot of people really want you to get into falconry.
Yeah, I mean, someone said they'd start a GoFundMe for this. But
we don't have the place to facilitate birds.
No, but I do love. I came up with when, for whatever reason, when a family will just start picking something for you, and they're like, she likes owls now. We're buying her owls.
That's the family from the South always sends owls, and I'm like, I don't know how that got started.
So I figured it out. Just early on when you're young, just pick something so crazy. Yeah. That's really cool, and then make that your thing. Because literally now when your mom is texting the family, she's like, well, now that Delman is Ski-Doo Delman.
She calls you Ski-Doo Delman.
And I'm like, great, done. Yeah. Great, because I will never be mad when you're like, well, we rented you a Ski-Doo. I'm like, see ya.
You are Ski-Doo Delman
Or
now.
if someone's like, we got you a falcon experience. Great. Yeah. So maybe just
You're
really
let your eccentricity flag fly.
Yeah, Trampoline Delman. That was a young one.
Well, Trampoline Delman, I mean this kindly, I think you're a little too old
High
for trampoline.
Dive Delman.
High Dive Delman, I'm putting a kibosh on. No more high diving at your age and your fragility. Okay. But you can falcon all you want, and you can Ski-Doo all you want. Okay. But High Dive Delman, he's got to go.
Glass blowing Delman?
No. That's a good idea.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he seems cool.
Walking on hot coals Delman?
That seems insane. Okay. Right. Okay, these are great, and I love them already. Yeah. Rachy Rach, she asked, favorite kind or form of bread? I know mine.
Okay, let's hear it.
Look, it doesn't seem like a really hard question until you actually analyze it, because there's a lot of different forms of bread. Yep. We got a lot of different ways. You got biscuits, you got breads, you got croissants, if you're going to put it all in the bread world, we got a lot of them. But I am safely and positively going to say your sourdough bread that you make.
Thank you.
With just salted dope butter on it.
Yeah.
For the rest of my life, I could eat that and be happy. Whenever they talk about prisoners eating bread and water, I'm like, sounds dope. I love it. Can do. I'm happy to do it. Warm, fresh bread with butter, hands down, can eat my body weight in it.
I love bread. I love beer. I love bread. I love anything in that world. Yeah, the reason I started making bread is because, pre the bread that I make and pre going to Iceland, the only breads I was eating were Wonder Bread.
Or a wheat.
Yeah. which is not bread, it's just whatever. But when you have homemade bread, or you go to a bakery that has real bread, and when we were in Iceland, we went to Broad & Company, and it just has this incredible bread.
It's a game
hard,
changer.
But because I like all sorts. I like brioche. I like King's Hawaiian.
I love it, ciabatta.
Yeah, I love
it focaccia.
But I think any bread that's homemade with love is my favorite bread.
Good for you.
Yeah.
This is a really good one. Sarah Peapod asked, what's your favorite piece of vampire media?
Okay.
I like What We Do in the Shadows and True Blood. Now, we tried to do True Blood. I tried during the pandemic. I was like, you've never seen True Blood? You have to see it. It's unhinged in the best, which it is.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's an insane show, and it only gets more and more insane. And whenever I watch it now, I'm like, HBO Max, or HBO, what were you doing? That's insane.
They were nailing it. People love that show.
People loved it. It was so camp. It's so ridiculous. It's so horny.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also just so like it gets more and more feral. The werewolves come in. It just gets absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of that the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, because that gets really feral and insane. And I keep thinking everyone's like begging for a TV show of that series. And I'm like, it's just going to turn into True Blood, but for our generation.
Give them what they want.
I know. You're right. Yeah. Because it's like, you know, again, everything was like the sexy vampires and the sexy werewolves.
I don't
find
like vampires that sexy.
You don't?
No.
Out of werewolf or vampire, which one are you going to smooch?
I mean, can I smooch the werewolf in human form, or does it have to be in the werewolf?
Yeah, you can smooch both of them in whatever form you want to smooch them in.
I won't kiss them in werewolf form.
Okay.
But I guess a werewolf, because vampires are it's just too much.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
it is a lot. And it's also like, I don't want to be your human blood bag,
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
what am I to you?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I like Let the Right One In. I feel like that would be the most real. I don't know. I thought Interview with a Vampire was funny because they just all look so ridiculous. But What We Do in the Shadows is my favorite.
There's
the movie,
a
not
bunch
the
of
show.
like graphic
I like
novels.
the show too.
I love the
movie.
show. I love the movie. There's a bunch of graphic novels that I really love too. 30 Days of Night is one of my favorite ones. They did a movie of it, and it did not do it justice in my opinion, because I really loved the whole series. That was like, it was one of the first times where they did a good job of setting it in a modern day setting and not making it like super lame, and making it still insanely fearful and insanely scary.
Well,
and
that's what I liked about What We Do in the Shadows, is like that it's modern. It's like they've lived with each other for so long, and they just have normal
and they're
issues.
still like putting up with like the 2000s and stuff like that, which you're like, that would be a very different journey. I also really we ironically, my friends and I in the soup group, I have a group of soup loving friends that we watch. We started with Harry Potter, and now we just kind of get into like whatever series we want to kind of make fun of. And we watched we watched Twilight, ironically. And an ironic viewing of Twilight is fantastic. It really is. It's like, it's so insane. It's so campy. It's so ridiculous that you're like, this is absolute madness. If those books didn't do anything, it would have never obviously seen the light of day. Another favorite thing I like to do is dive into like Twilight bloopers, because you can see how much Robert Pattinson like truly hated being there and truly hated everything, because he'd be like, whoa, and he'd go too far, and they'd be like, hey, too far, and he'd be like, I hate this. And he'd just be like, oh yeah, I bet you do. I would hate it too. And I really love an ironic.
Yeah, but now he has a career.
No, absolutely. But I think he did absolutely hate doing Twilight. I think he's gone on record being like, that was some of the worst times of my life.
You know what? So what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa up, Robert Pattinson.
Stop crying.
Listen.
I'd love to be a sexy vampire.
Sexy
so if anyone's
Edward.
casting sexy vampires.
Delman, you?
Yeah.
Let's see. Can I see your smolder?
No, I'd be a funny, sexy vampire.
You can't be a funny, sexy vampire?
Yeah.
No, it's either funny vampire or sexy vampire. You don't get to be both.
Why? Why are you making the laws of what a vampire can be?
Write it. Let's see it. I'm happy to see it.
Yeah.
I really am.
I think it'd get gross pretty fast.
Yeah, it really would. Yeah.
But anyways, anything else?
Oh, yeah. We got lots. Carly Jane asked, what are your hyperfixations right now?
Oh, right now I'm back into chess.
You are really into, and Delman will get like distracted. He'll be like, do I have time for like one chess session?
Well, yeah, you can do 5-minute chess games.
You've been really in the zone.
I was on the plane, and I just, since it was last minute, I didn't plan anything. So I didn't have any books or headphones or anything.
You texted me at one point that you were just staring without any headphones or music or anything to watch. And I was like, you need to do something, because people are going to be terrified of this guy sitting next to them doing good. No. I was like, you can't be that guy. You can't be the weird guy that's just staring straight ahead in a plane. I'd be so creeped out by that.
I'm the normal guy doing that.
Nope. No, but you have to have something.
So I played a good old Tennessean.
Yeah.
I was playing chess. He was playing chess. And we were sitting next to each other. And I was like, oh, do you want... And he's like, do you want to play? And I was like, oh, because like chess is so... I don't know. For me, it's so weird because like I've always prided myself at being good at chess.
Sure.
But it's... You just also never know who is good or bad. And I will say, you can never judge a book by its cover with chess.
Not with
Whenever
chess.
it's someone
or
who's...
hey, not ever.
Exactly. But especially with chess. Because whenever it's like some like really, really, really like well-dressed, very normally smart person that says they're good at chess, I can murder them in like 3 moves.
Sure.
But whenever it's some like guy that you've already
man in a 10-gallon like, cowboy hat and
not
like
just
skin
that,
tight
but like
jeans.
I had a friend named Perry. I have a friend named Perry. We love Perry.
Yeah.
And Perry is not like he's a California guy too.
Yeah.
So we come off
like a little bra.
Yeah, we come off like bra. So you wouldn't expect him to be good at chess.
He's incredibly good at chess.
And he murdered me in chess the first few times. And then everyone you talk to, they're like, oh, he's a sleeper.
Yeah.
So this guy is sitting next to me and he's just like, oh, yeah, I like to play chess at night. And this guy just like absolutely, he didn't murder me, but he beat me.
He beat you well.
And then that made me like, okay, like I'm back, baby. But I will say, I've been playing a lot, and I'm doing good.
You're getting better?
I'm much better.
It is your current hyperfixation.
Yeah.
You've been sneaking in games left and right.
Yeah.
I'll ask you a question, and I'll be like, I didn't hear back from him. And then
you
I
really
like
have to pay attention.
come in, and you're like, I'm in a chess zone.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. So it is. It's your absolute hyperfixation.
So I'm on Passonting hard right now.
Good for you. Yeah. My current hyperfixation is summer fruit. It's so sad. Look, I got a lot of hyperfixations.
Yeah, me
I've been really diving into like certain TV shows. I had one hyperfixation of the show Silo. I have now learned everything there is to learn about it, and I started reading the series, and I'm obsessed. And it's on Apple TV. I think it's one of the better shows of the last 5 years. Watch it. It's so good. But also watermelon. Really into it. I'll never stop until it gets bad. And that's like current hyperfixation that is really sad and very wild. But watermelon.
Nice. All right.
How sad is that? Is that a sad answer?
Kind of.
It is, right?
Yeah. But, you have so many hyperfixations.
I really do. Yeah. I have a violent amount of hyperfixations.
Well, I hope you step out of your comfort zone with the summer fruits and don't just stick to the classics.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Maybe start bringing some weird ones.
No, I know what I like, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
No. Look, I'm just saying I have a lot of more complicated hyperfixations.
Yeah.
But then I have to dive into the journey of like screenwriting and that whole side of it.
Yes.
And I just don't think we have time for it. So I'm just going to let you know that right now, watermelons are really great. And we learned a really good hack on TikTok that we call the tiny butthole hack.
Oh, yes.
Where we saw a guy and he said, so the growing end, it can be like a bigger side of it. But the opposite end that has that little like hole on the end kind of a thing.
The tinier the better.
The tinier the better. And so we say, oh, yeah, it has to have a tiny butthole. But then we realized that saying that in the store kind of got us a lot of weird looks.
A lot of winking.
We're not going to not say it. No. But if you find a little tiny butthole on the end of the watermelon, it's always a guaranteed sweet time. Hi, follow me for more hacks.
Yes. Anyways.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we've covered enough, considering we've gone into a really deep side, and I'm also sweating?
I think we did good. I think when we start getting guests and as we keep making these podcasts, like, we can go longer, but for now, I think the people are having...
there's so much I wanted to cover. I wanted to cover the SAG strike.
Hot.
I wanted to cover, like, a bunch of other different things.
We'll hit it next week.
Thank you so much.
It'll still be going.
Okay.
We're going to figure out how to get out of the sun. Maybe the next episode will be in a pool.
Oh, my God. Or in the dark?
Yeah.
Or in a river?
Dark pool river.
Oh, that is my current hyperfixation. I've been looking for... It's actually a wormhole. Wow. I can't believe I didn't bring it up. I'm so sorry. Hi. Welcome to Lee's Brain. I need to find a California lazy river that's within 2 hours of Los Angeles. And if you know anything about a lazy river or a river that's within 2 hours of Los Angeles, tell me, DM me, text me, call me, kiss me on the mouth. I need it. Yeah. I need a river. Right. I need it so badly I could just scream.
Yes.
I love you so much. Thank you so much for listening.
Stay stinky.
Stay stinky.
Not too stinky.
You're going to be stinky because it's hot as balls.
Yeah, and thank you for the donations, and keep reaching out to us. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you want to see more of.
Yeah.
And this thing's growing. It's getting there. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell your weird cousins.
Yeah.
And we love you so much.
I love you so much.
See you next weekend.
Bye.